Former undrafted free agent Viking safety Anthony Harris has been an emerging star for the past 2 years. And if the Vikings wanted to keep him long term, it didn't look great for long-term contract negotiations. And then boom, they put the franchise tag on him. But it sounds like talks are back on. One time, let's go. So Josina Anderson, ESPN, reported this, quote, source, I'm told that Vikings and safety Anthony Harris are expected to resume discussions on his status and long-term deal. There were talks towards the end of March. I'm told a deal is in the realm of what's necessary to finalize, but Harris knows other factors could impact his future in Minnesota, end quote. So back on a couple weeks ago, our guy Doogie, KSTP, reported that they're off. Josina Anderson, by the way, has a ton of player sources, ton of agent sources, very well dialed in and does amazing work. So her source, again, going back to key words here. So source, not sources. So source, I mean, it could be Anthony Harris. Could easily be the agent as well. Plus the phrase, Harris knows other factors could impact his future in Minnesota. So it's obviously the source knows what Harris knows. So making sense that deducing that the source is either Harris or his agent. There you go. But that's a little bit of a side, but it's always fun to do that whenever there is breaking news, right? So would love to have Anthony back long term. I think he's been the best partner with Harrison Smith. Plus, with Sendejo and Kearse leaving, plus all the other cornerback attrition and turnover, I mean, it would be nice to have a little bit of continuity in place. Plus, Anthony Harris is emerging as one of the best free safeties in the league. Harrison Smith certainly is no slouch, has some tread left on the tires. So if you can carry forward and just have the best back end of the defense in the league, let's do that for a while. I mean, there's going to be so much change on this defense. Just a couple of pieces, a couple of nice homegrown pieces would be really great. Plus, when they said realm, so you're talking about big money, so they're in the ballpark, but they're in the neighborhood. He's making 11.4 and change on his franchise tag currently. But you look at some of the big free agent contracts that have been. So it's about between about 13.5 and 14.6 million per year. Notably, Eddie Jackson's up at the top. 4-year, $58.4 million deal with $22 million guaranteed. It was the recent big deal. Last year, Kevin Byard with the Titans, inking up a 5-year, $70.5 million deal with $19.625 million guaranteed. Now, those two are important and notable because they are represented by the same agency that Anthony Harris is represented by. So they know the safety market, and I mean, they're probably not going to cut the Vikings any hometown discount, especially since they let it ride through his contract year and now just slap the tag on him, right? So they do have maximum leverage here at that spot. And also, I had heard that they're in the 12 to 13 million per year range and about 3 to 4 year deal. So it's smallish 2020 cap hit. So could they fudge the numbers? Could they get it towards where both sides are amicable? Now, players that generally do like larger guarantees later on into the contract, so that does add a little bit of stability. So if there's larger dead cap hits later on in the contract, the team is more likely to honor said contract and have it play out through those years, so it almost turns into a de facto guarantee. Whereas teams, especially like the Vikings, Rob Brzezinski special, front-loaded, so players get their money up front, gets a nice little sign-in bonus, has the first year or two guaranteed, and if it doesn't work out, the team can move on. No harm to the cap, no harm to foul. There you go. So it's likely where it's being stuck at this moment. And plus, we've heard the back and forth because, I mean, it's a negotiation, and the biggest leverage that you have is walking away. All right, we're taking our ball and going home. And both sides have done it, and it leaks through the media because that's how it is in sports, where everything is negotiated through the media, everything is negotiated through the court of public opinion. So Harris being no deal, both at times this year as well as last year, when a lot of Vikings do re-sign with the team with a year left on their contract, he's like, nah, gotta let it ride. There you go, right? And then the team putting out trade vibes, sort of gauging the trade market. I think it's partially negotiating, partially keeping your options open, as is important to do for both the team and the player. And it's a deadline-driven league, like we said, where nothing happens until it absolutely has to, unless you're the Carolina Panthers and Christian McCaffrey, where they had control of him for 2 more years, and then they just. I'm still quite upset about that deal, but whatever. But I think all options are still on the table. Probably the least likely option is still playing the 1 year on the tag because, it's still a massive cap hit on the Vikings 2020 books, as well as Anthony Harris doesn't have long-term stability. So it's actually like the worst option for both parties involved. So I think that if they are going to stay together, it will be a long-term deal. If it is a trade, It'll happen, is what it is. Actually, I think it's more likely that they would just pull the tag and let Anthony leave in free agency. Vikings get a third round 2021 compensatory pick in all likelihood, as opposed to just letting it ride on the 1 year franchise tag. But I think that trade is still on the table. Like, the Vikings get a knockout offer during the draft, or if they've touched base with other teams, like, hey, if we don't get the safety that we want, first, second, third round, day 1, day 2, we'll circle back to this Anthony Harris trade. So I think there's a couple of those in the Vikings' back pocket. And also, if a long-term deal isn't reached, I mean, it may have to wait till the draft is over. Anyway, so the Vikings can still have some leverage, still have the options open. Same thing with Anthony Harris too. But I will say, if they do trade him, I mean, if they do get that second or high third round pick this year, I mean, you could be looking at replacements like Grant Delpit, LSU, potentially bottom of the first, early second round. Xavier McKinney, I think, is a great all-around safety from Alabama. Of course, Antoine Winfield Jr., you do worry about the health. Jeremy Chin, the physical freak from Southern Illinois. Now, step up in competition, as well as he does have some injury stuff as well. Could he be a starter day 1? Probably not. As well as a guy that I really like, Ashton Davis out of Cal. He's probably the prospects have been hurt the most by this entire Rona quarantine thing, because he has so many medical rechecks. But if he gets checked, you've seen him on the field. He is a phenomenal player. Could be a great value later on day 2 for the Vikings. But that's we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. We'll see what happens with Anthony Harris here. Again, I would like to keep him. I think 12 and a half is really solid for him at this point, especially this stage of free agency. It's more than Devin McCourty. It's more than Kareem Jackson. It's slightly less than some of the top tier safeties. It's slightly less than Earl Thomas. But overall, at this point, I think it's a pretty solid compromise. So we'll see what happens there. But your thoughts, latest on Anthony Harris contract negotiations, let us know in the comments section below. Subscribe for daily Vikings takes. If you want to support the work, pull us on the Venmo. Plus give us a follow on social media as well. But until next time, Skol, production value.